This show is brought to you by Whatever You Say Productions, starting conversations since 2018.
Miss Dana Powell, how
Hi
are
there.
you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Well, it's been a minute. I feel like we only do this once a month, and I wish we did it more often because
I
I'm hanging.
know.
Maybe for season 2,
It's for
we can
season 2.
we
Yeah.
can crank it up.
Well, I mean, these are pretty intense and awesome episodes, so people need some time to process, maybe.
This is true. This is very true. Well, I'm delighted to have you here with me today for this very special Mother's Day edition of When I Knew. And, you and I had sort of been tossing around some ideas, and we were working with our PR team, and well, what can we do? What can we do? And I'm just so thrilled that you thought this would be a good idea to introduce my mother, to interview my mom.
I think it's a wonderful idea and timely as well.
Very, very well. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Leslie.
Yay! Hi, Leslie.
Hello, Dana.
Hi, we're so excited to have you on the show.
This is fun. I'm happy to be on the show.
And this is, why don't you tell everyone that this is your favorite show?
Yes, this is my favorite show on the whole podcast.
Do you know
series.
the name of my company?
The new name?
No, we haven't announced that yet, Mom.
Oh,
no,
okay.
the name of my company.
Whatever You Say Productions.
Very good. Very
That's
good.
right. For those listeners who may be new to the show, Samantha is our CEO for Whatever You Say Productions LLC. You can find us on Instagram. Her actual handle is at Whatever You Say Babe. She's producer and host of Dicks and Politics. When I Knew, you sometimes co-host with Microscope and
It's
Bro Time, Game Over. You're just a busy woman.
I am, but I'm thrilled because we just signed your favorite Fifi Dubois from When I Knew I Wanted a Career as a Drag Queen. We just signed her to WISP, and she's going to have her show called Fifi's Funhouse that comes out in July.
So I love me some Fifi.
I know. Isn't she fantastic? Mom, you just listened to that episode today, right?
Yeah, I did.
She just got around to it, Dana. She made time in her busy schedule for us. No, it's great, though. I'm thrilled to have you here, and I'm so excited to finally introduce you to Dana, whom I've been gawking about for months, but you've never met. So for those of you who don't know, I'm adopted, which is why Leslie and I don't look alike. I am not from here. And so we thought it would be sort of fun for me to take a back seat and let Dana ask you some questions and interview you. So I'm just going to sit here and be quiet. So cherish this. I'm never quiet.
True. So true.
Just to start off with, I know Samantha. Samantha and I met in a very odd way. She just randomly messaged me on Instagram. I live in Los Angeles. She lives in New York. You're on the East Coast. So we're all very far apart. But I would like for you to just give a brief history of what it was how did you know that you wanted to become a parent, and what made you choose adoption?
Well, we got married probably on the late side compared to a lot of people. I was 29. My husband was 34. Mm-hmm. And we started thinking about a family, and I got pregnant and had a wonderful pregnancy, but I developed preeclampsia 2 months before the baby was due.
Yes.
So they had to do a C-section and take the baby. She was very tiny, very little. Mm-hmm. And she only lived for 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was very sad.
Yes,
very, very sad.
I actually can relate to that in a lot of ways. I too, I have one child, a son, and I had preeclampsia.
Oh, did you?
I did, and he was born at 32 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. But he's okay.
He is. He's perfectly healthy.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. It was a different time, and my mother also had preeclampsia. It ran in the family. So I'm very sorry for that. That must have been very painful for you.
Did you know it was? Did you know you had preeclampsia? I didn't know I had it.
Yes, see, that's how they were able to help me and get him to the point that he would
Yeah.
be safe enough to go ahead and be born.
Right.
So they knew that I had preeclampsia. They said, we're not in the business of, killing mothers to let a baby cook longer. He's going to be okay. So they went ahead and brought him, and he was in the NICU for about 5 weeks. So knowing that information, obviously is what saved both myself and him. And
Right.
in your situation, how lovely that your life was saved as, that both lives weren't lost. That's very frightening.
As I said, I felt wonderfully. And
yeah, I mean, you told me that you felt great when you were pregnant.
I
You
did.
had energy and you were running
felt
around.
Terrific. But I was a little bit older. I was like 34, 35. And so that was a very sad and tragic time in our life.
Absolutely.
And then I tried to get pregnant again, went through infertility for several years. And what was that
Was
one?
IVF the same back then as it is now? Or has it changed?
I think probably the drugs certainly have changed, and they certainly know better how to do it. I went through several cycles of IVF, and actually I did get pregnant once, but miscarried early on. So
I was just your destiny.
Ooh, I guess you
Congratulations. The gift that keeps on giving.
What an emotional journey to get to that point.
Yes.
How long did it take you to decide, from after trying IVF and all of these things, okay, we need to find a different answer here?
Well, we just kind of fell into it. A very close friend of mine adopted out of Chicago, Easter House. And
for those of you who have been listening to our show since the beginning, you remember Paige from our very first episode. My mother is referring to her brother, Zachary.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And a few other people in our town were adopting as well. So, we weren't serious about it, but my sister and her husband were living in Bangkok, Thailand. And we went over one Christmas and spent about 3 weeks in Thailand. We had a fabulous time. We rode elephants. We flew out in a military chopper to a Cambodian refugee camp.
Wow.
We went on the canals, on rice barges, and we saw the children. We went to a little performance by Thai children dancing, and they were so adorable. So we fell in love with the country. And, I said to my sister and brother-in-law that we'd be interested in adopting. And I always, in the back of my mind, had thought about adopting an Asian child. So here we were, and they said they could probably help us. So we came back to the States, and we did the home study with a lawyer.
Expand upon that, because that's an interesting story. So our home used to be a horse stable way, 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 way back. And so by the time my parents bought it, it had been abandoned for quite some years. So when they renovated it and turned it into a home, they decided to leave a lot of the original architecture here in our home. However, when your home is being inspected to potentially adopt a child, that can pose some problems. We have a lot of we have a lot of steps in our house.
A lot of levels.
Yeah, a lot of different levels. We have the old coal burning stove smack in the middle of our kitchen.
Wow.
We have a ladder
up to the hay loft.
that leads up to the upstairs. Yes, we have since built stairs. We don't climb a ladder to get up and down. But, this sort of came in and went, oh, no, 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 no.
No, they didn't.
That's what you told me. You told me that they wanted you to cover up the stove in the middle of the floor and that they had some concerns and you were just like, okay. And then you didn't do anything.
So.
And it was fast too, Mom. Tell them about it. It was 3 months.
It was
and
fast.
It was like, boom.
It was fast.
And you had to get your friends involved.
My brother-in-law had a very high position in Bangkok with the State Department. And so he had a lot of influence. And so we sent the paperwork over to the Department of Welfare over there. They're in charge of the adoptions. And
didn't your friends have to you and Dad both had to write an autobiography?
Oh yeah.
And then
that was difficult.
And then your friends had to all write like character
letters,
testimonies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
it was the whole town, Dana.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Every parent should have to write an autobiography and why they think they will be a good parent.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were approved right away, and my sister found Sam in a baby's home, and that was it. I mean, she sent us a picture, and there was this cute little baby girl. She was like 5 months old then. So we had to get a visa for her, and do some final paperwork, and we flew over. And
well, I met you first. Go into detail, Mom. My mother collapsed.
Well, so you're flying for roughly 24 hours to get there, so you're exhausted. So I came down the ramp into the airport, and there is my nephew, who was 14, holding Samantha, and all I could see were these great big brown eyes looking at me, and I was crying so hard I couldn't hold her. I was just, it was unbelievable.
And Dad was in business in Beijing, right?
No, he was in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So he came in the next night, and I brought her out to the airport to meet him.
Did he collapse as well?
Not like I did. So.
Well, I can imagine that was such like the pinnacle of such an emotional journey for you.
It was.
You had suffered so much loss, and then, being a woman and going through miscarriage and then IVF and all these things. It's something that now women are talking about more and more, which I think is so important and so necessary. But I wonder if maybe in that time it wasn't as open and there wasn't as much support for women.
We live in a town that's small. There are only 6,000 or 7,000 people, and it's a very supportive community. And this community was wonderful.
Good.
I mean, they just rallied round. I mean, we also went through a flood. This before we adopted. We went through a flood.
Oh my goodness.
They had just renovated the house.
And then we had 3.5 feet of water in the house.
Oh my goodness.
I was not here yet.
Yeah.
But
this town, people would just walk down our driveway, people we didn't even know, and say, what can I do to help? I mean, it was just a community
We're very
together.
Lucky.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So now you have Samantha, you have your baby, and you're ready to bring her home. Did you have any reservations about, well, you said your community was very, very supportive, so you didn't have to worry about reservations about her being accepted or anything. But did you ever have any concerns about someone saying, well, there are a lot of children in America, why did you go to Thailand?
No, nobody ever asked me that question.
I don't think that conversation even really started until maybe a few years ago. I remember growing up and it was always, if you're adopted, you had to go. I remember being young and knowing adoption means you go overseas. Even though I was surrounded by Paige and Zach and the twins, I don't really think that people started that whole, foster care guilt trip thing in our sort of neck of the woods until maybe a few years ago. And even now people don't say things like that here.
No, they don't.
Even though it is a very valid point, people don't say things like that.
People loved her.
That's
I mean, we
wonderful.
had a steady stream when we got home from Thailand.
And I was covered in bug bites.
A steady stream of people stopping by to meet her.
Aww.
And it was wonderful.
Did you think about when she was very small, did you have sort of a plan in place to talk with her about adoption and how she came to be in your family?
Well, we always talked about it.
You did.
And we had books to read. But, you know, there was no question that she was adopted because she's Asian.
And my mom has blonde hair.
I have blonde hair and blue eyes.
I kind of look like Dad, I guess. Like, if you stuck me next to Dad and you weren't around, I think people would probably, oh, okay, well, maybe that did come from that. But then the second they see us tootling down the street, they're like, nope. No. But we did. I remember you had books for me to read, but it was never an issue. It was always, I'm adopted. I didn't know what it meant when I was 2 years old and telling everyone in town, but it was always a part of my vocabulary. Right. And I think luckily because we had those two other families that also had adopted kids, it was just never an issue. Right. Everyone was treated the same and everyone was, you know. And
a lot of people in surrounding communities had adopted Korean children and Chinese children.
Wow.
So there were a lot of Asians around.
Right. So people had kind of walked down this path before you.
Yep. They had.
That's wonderful. And did you, was it important to you? How much did you share with Sam about, or did you even know about her past? Maybe
we don't know anything about her biological mother. She was left at the baby's home when she was about 10 days old. And
they kind of guessed my birthday. They, you know, did a physical and that was kind of it.
You were healthy.
Yep. And they named me and my middle name, which we won't expose for privacy, but it roughly translates to musician in Thai. And I am a musician. Name. So
yeah, a wonderful one.
Worked out. But I'm a blank slate. And for a long time, that really bothered me. You know, when you're struggling to find your identity, you want so badly to cling to something so that you can sort of have a baseline. But as I've gotten older, I love that I'm a blank slate and that I have no preconceived, you know, perceptions of what I should be like or who I should be. I can just do whatever the hell I want, and I'm tickled by it.
That's
so
lovely. Did you guys talk about heritage as far as like your culture and trying to make that a part of your life?
We did. We shared a lot of.
We had a lot of artwork in the house that was from Thailand. A lot of books.
We shared a lot of our experiences in Thailand with her. And in fact, we were going to take her back when she was around 2, and. There was the Iraq War broke out, so we didn't.
Okay. And that was, you mean just a visit? I don't want anybody to think you were like, we're done with her.
No, it wasn't until I turned 13 that my mom was like, send her back. I remember finding your diary when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and you had sort of kept a log. And I remember on my 11th birthday, you wrote, "Dear Diary, help."
Well, just the fact that you read her diary makes me understand why she wrote that.
Exactly. I was very sneaky. I was a sneaky kid.
So,
but yeah, it was always a part of the narrative. And I don't think we didn't have a lot of Thai food, but Anjali used to make me sticky rice.
Right. Oh, we had a Thai friend that actually gave me Thai cooking lessons.
Oh, wonderful.
But interestingly enough, Sam has never wanted to go back to Thailand.
Nope.
And we've wanted to take her because I think she should know her heritage. But she has no interest in going back.
It's not that I don't, that's not fully true. First of all, I'm allergic to everything over there. So I'm allergic to all the things, the peanuts and the shrimp and everything. I'm allergic. So that's number one.
There is other food.
I think that if we did go back, I would want to go and be guided around by someone who speaks fluent English, who can keep us away from all the things that I don't want to see, like Bangkok and the sex, I cannot be around that. It's a trigger for me. But I think if you and I, or the three of us went, I'd want to go with someone who could guide us around and tell the restaurants, please don't give her any shrimp so I don't die. And I think that'd be lovely.
Yeah.
But I don't think, so for me, what people I think don't realize, people ask me this all the time. Oh, have you been back? Have you been back? No. Do you want to go back? No. And people don't understand that. So allow me to explain.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, from whom I came. And because of that, and because I have a very wild, vivid imagination, I feared, up until probably recently, but I still think this would be a factor, that I'd be walking around and I'd just be in tears the entire time, wondering, is that my mom? Is that my dad? Is that my mom? Is that my dad? Is that my brother? Is that my sister? And I don't want that to be my experience. I don't want that to be my mindset, or for that to be a trigger for me, because if I do go back, I want to be able to enjoy it. So then I sort of started to warm up to the idea, but then of course, the boom of the internet and documentaries, and you see why some people go to Thailand now, and it's to prey on young children in a sexual way. And because I don't know where I'm from, I could have come from that. And that's really hard for me. I'm so grateful that that is not my reality, and that if that could have been a possibility, that whomever it was near me, whether it was my mother, my father, my grandparents, whomever, got me out of it. But for me, like, if I even experience or see a hint of that, I know that I will have an absolute meltdown, and I can't handle that.
That's just a very small part of what Thailand's about.
I know that. And I'm not trying to magnify and say that that's what Thailand is all about, but it's something that I'm very sensitive to. And if I'm exposed to it while over here, it's upsetting. If I'm exposed to it over there, it'll ruin my entire trip. I can just see it now. So I want to make sure that if I do go back, that I'm very careful about it, and that I'm kept away from that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Often said to me that maybe when you have a family of your own, you'll go back.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like my expectation. Like, when, whatever you say productions now is doing well, but when it's really standing on its own, two legs, and I do have, perhaps a husband, and maybe if I can't find one, I'll just have kids on my own, and I am a little bit more established, then yes, I think that would be really helpful for me to say, all right, I have really created a life for myself that is secure. I'm ready to go back now. But I'm not there yet.
Yes, I know.
So,
that's all right.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to go back.
Yeah.
Really.
We also had a Thai, when Sam was very young, we had a Thai girl living with us. She was almost Noi. She was almost like a nanny, but she was going to school, and so we were just giving her a place to live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was wonderful. Wonderful.
Wow. That's really interesting. So
she went back to Thailand, and now we can't get in touch with her.
Now we can't find her.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's also something I want to talk to you about. It's, I have the experience of, I understand where you're coming from, Samantha, when you say, I don't really have the desire to go back right now. My mother never knew her father. And so I just actually, believe it or not, just found out a few weeks ago he's since passed on. But people would ask me, oh, don't you wish, my husband specifically, don't you want to find him? Don't you want to find out what he's about and what his family is? You clearly have aunts and uncles and cousins and whatever that you don't even know. And my answer was always no, even to this day.
Yeah.
I don't have a desire to. And that's just because he's not my family.
Right.
So for you, Leslie is your family, your father's your father,
exactly.
But if someone ever did find you and want to reach out, how would you both as individuals feel about that?
I would be thrilled.
But they will never find us.
I know.
Unfortunately, they will never find us.
But I would be thrilled.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
So I have a tradition. I don't even think you know about this. This is super personal. Dana, look at what you're pulling
I'm
out
sorry.
of me.
I'm
No,
sorry.
it's okay. So I have a tradition that I started with myself a few years ago. Once I really sort of settled into, okay, I'm a woman. Like, I understand why she made the decision she did. I'm so grateful, blah, blah, blah. So what I do every night on the eve of my birthday, I go and I get myself a cupcake. This year I didn't have one. I had to stick a candle in a cookie. I had to break an Oreo in half and stick a candle in it. I have a picture of it. And I wait until midnight. And right at midnight, I close my eyes and I send my biological family a message to just say, today is the day, or, you know, according to the doctors, but today is the day where we're all thinking of each other and you're wondering, where is she? How is she? I'm good. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm thriving. I've grown up to be, you know, curious and whatever.
And smart.
Thank you.
Successful. Yeah.
And
she has a lot of grit.
And then I blow out my candle, and that's just something that I do, and it helps me sort of usher in a new year of my life, but also take a moment to acknowledge the person and or people who made that decision to give me my first chance. So
yeah, I love that so much because it's so beautiful too. Not only are you doing that for yourself, but you're also putting out into the universe that energy of peacefulness and almost like a sense of forgiveness for those who may be out there wondering about you as well. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, and I don't think there's much truly to forgive. You know, I think as a woman now, I look at my life and my friends, and I can understand why someone would make that decision to put a child up for adoption. And I think that it's brave. And I think that it's wonderful. And some people are like, oh, well, it's careless, it's reckless. I don't agree.
I don't either, because
the steps of an orphanage and leaving me there in a basket, I think is actually quite nice.
I think it's probably also the hardest thing they ever had to do.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like as a mother, the choice to give up a child for the betterment of their future would be the most painful thing. I can't even imagine what it would be like. You know, Leslie, I'm sure you can understand too. Like, I can't even fathom having to leave my child in the hopes that someone could provide more than I could.
How would you feel if my biological parents found me? Would you be tickled, or would you be
I'd be delighted.
Yeah, I think it would be great. I think it'd be great to meet them. You know, I think we'd be nervous for what we would find. I think that, we're very lucky because you and Dad work very hard and you're very smart, and we have a wonderful life. And I think that I'd be nervous to see if maybe they weren't quite as fortunate as us, and feeling some sort of empathy and guilt and, oh gosh, what can we do to help? Right. But there are things that we could do to help. Sure. So that feeling goes away, pretty quickly, and then we move on.
In fact, for years, I supported students in Thailand that couldn't afford, they were in school, but they couldn't afford their books and their supplies and
uniforms.
I supported them. Wow. These girls.
Yeah. And remember, they used to send us letters?
Pardon?
They used to send us little letters.
They wrote us letters.
So cute.
Yes.
Leslie, do you think that connection to Thailand was because of Samantha, because you had a child whose origin was from there, or have you just always felt
the country?
Yeah. Okay.
Once we went the first time, we fell in love with the country. And Dana, interestingly enough, the Thai people they're known for their beautiful smiles, and they're very soft-spoken and demure, unlike Sam, who's a loudmouth.
Yeah, but that's why I think, I'm not 100% Thai. There's just no way.
Well, you're 100% American.
Yeah, but I think that I might be part Italian or part, maybe not Polish. I'm too small.
No.
But I think I'm something. Because,
well, you know what? We should do your DNA.
We could. I'm open to it now. I have curly hair and I have cheekbones, which is not I'm not supposed to.
Right. So. And you have eyes. Dana, have you done your ancestry, your DNA?
You guys, I have not, and I'm very curious, but the reason I haven't is because I'm just an old woman who's like, I don't want the government to have my DNA.
Oh, gee, really?
Girl, they've already got it.
Well, we've done it. We've done it, and it's very interesting. And I'm reading a book. This is a whole nother subject. And it's about a writer that grew up in a very Russian Orthodox family, very strict. But she was blonde and blue-eyed. And everybody, as she grew up and became an adult, everybody said, "You're not Jewish. You couldn't be. Look at you." And she did her DNA, and she was not a match to her sister.
Oh, wow.
And she investigated, and she found out that her mother had used donor sperm, and she doesn't think her father knew that.
Oh, my goodness.
She went down to Philadelphia and went to the Ferris Institute and had donor sperm, or they mixed sperm back then.
Ew.
And so she's found her biological
father. Is
father.
this a true story?
It is a true story.
Oh my God.
It's fascinating.
That is fascinating.
And her father she lives in Connecticut. Her biological father lives in Portland, Oregon, and he is a retired doctor, and he was a medical student at UPenn, and a lot of medical students donated their sperm back then. This is the 60s.
Yeah.
And, it is fascinating.
And was he thrilled to see her?
At first he was worried about his privacy. And he said, I really need to discuss this with my wife and children. He has 3 grown children. And he, at first, was a little put off. And then finally he said, I really don't want to go any further with this. But then several months later, they were emailing. He emailed her and said, "Actually, I've changed my mind. I would like to meet you, and we're coming east." And they met.
That's amazing. What's the name of that book?
It's called Inheritance.
Wow. That's great.
It's excellent. It's fascinating. But that's just how far this ancestry can go.
Yeah, for sure.
If she hadn't done her ancestry, she would have never known. No.
I do think that there are some things that definitely are genetic and passed on through blood. But what do you think about your relationship with Sam has developed, making her into the person she is because of this adoption? Do you think that you shared anything special that may be different from someone who has biological children, a different experience through this adoption?
I really don't think so, because I feel like I gave birth to her. Yeah. And, we gave her a warm, loving childhood. And
she's yours.
And it's absolutely. And we exposed her to a lot of things.
And I'm a lot like you and Dad. That's why I'm so crazy. I'm a mix of 3 things. I'm me, but I'm also you and Dad. And you and Dad are very different. So I don't know. I'm a weirdo. But you and I share common interests. We love to garden. We love to go to the theater. We love musicals. What else?
Yeah.
You like shoes. I don't like shoes, but I don't know. We like makeup. What else do we have in common? We think poop is funny.
Oh, jeez. Let's not get into that.
No.
I love to walk.
Yeah, but then there's things that we differ in.
Yeah, and I love to read.
She loves to read.
I'm all about books. My whole life in my retirement is all about books and libraries. I've been involved in our little local library. I was president of the board twice, been on the board.
But we share in common nature.
Yeah.
You like Microscope, my other podcast. And that, came from you and Dad, taking me outside. So I believe in nature and nurture. Yeah. There's things about me that you can trace directly back to my mother and father. And then there's things about me that are just like, well, that's not.
Where'd that come from?
Nope. Yeah, right.
I love that. Now, for listeners too, can you explain the rest of your family dynamic? Do you have siblings and, or do you consider friends family? How does the rest of your dynamic work?
We have a lot of very close friends. I come from a family of 4 girls. I was the youngest. My oldest sisters have passed away.
Okay.
And so I have my sister that's just above me, and we're very close. Lots of nieces and nephews.
But I don't have, so I do have cousins, but none close to my age.
Right. They're all in their 40s and 50s now.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't really like.
So you're closer really to the next generation.
But I don't really we don't really hang out with our extended family. Like, it's pretty much just us and then our friends in town. And my closest friend was and still is Paige. Paige is like a sister to me because we were always together.
Right.
Always. Unsupervised.
Always naked.
Yep, always naked, unsupervised, and running around somewhere. As long as we were in by dark. I mean, we were like feral children. But yeah, I don't have any siblings. I grew up, I never had a dog, always wanted a dog. And my parents were like, oh, pish posh, we'll get you some ducks.
We have cat people. We're cat people. We've always had.
Yes.
But we did have
ducks. You have ducks?
We had ducks. And yeah, cats and goldfish.
I love it.
Yeah, my mother recently adopted 2 cats without asking and or telling my father, and hid them in one of the guest bedrooms upstairs for 2 days without him knowing.
Leslie, what did those 2 days give you besides anxiety?
Oh no, I was delighted.
My dad's outnumbered.
They're sisters. They're gray sisters. They're about 2.5 years old, and I adopted them from a friend who was moving from a house to an apartment. And so we now have 3 female cats. We have,
and then we have you and me and Dad. He's outnumbered.
Yep.
I love it so much. Just to get a little personal with you girls, I want to ask you both the same question, and whoever wants to go first can go first. But I want to ask, what are you most proud of in the other person? So Samantha, what makes you most proud of Leslie? And Leslie, what makes you most proud of Samantha?
I'll go first. My mom just does it. Everyone always says, oh, Sam, you're so fearless. You're so this, you're so that. I'm like, you should meet Leslie. She flings herself into anything that she thinks might be rewarding, whether that's volunteer experience or building off of her small business or traveling somewhere or walking up to a random stranger and being like, hi, do you want to be friends? My mother is she's not reckless, but she's fearless. And I think that is so important when you're especially raising a girl, especially nowadays, because things are changing, thank heavens. But I also think that it kind of set the bar a little bit high for guys. I mean, I'm really, like, I just ended a relationship, and so I'm on the market again. And I'm not here to accept anything less than I deserve, because my mother has demonstrated to me so clearly that I don't need a man for shit. Good. I can have my own life. I can start a family. I can do whatever I want, and I don't have to count on anyone but me and, some good friends around me. So that's what I'm most proud of.
And I'm proud of Sam because she is so determined and she's been so successful. And as I said, she has grit.
But even when I'm not successful, I pick myself back up.
Right, you do.
And I march on.
Yeah, you do. Well, you have to.
Yeah, exactly. See? This is where I get it from.
I love it.
She, like the last 2 Christmases, her favorite presents have been
president. I don't have one right now.
Her favorite presents that she asked for were tools.
Oh my God. Dana, I got a socket wrench kit this year.
I love it. I have an extensive tool bag too. Yes.
Yeah.
My daddy had 3 girls, and boy, he wanted to make sure we could take care of ourselves.
And it's smart, but I also think my mom's very compassionate, and that's a trait that I hope I've picked up and sort of shoved in my back pocket. She's just great. And I also really admire the marriage and the friendship and relationship she has with my father. My dad's my dad's very grumpy, and he's very, he's just, this is it, and that's that.
Well, he keeps to himself.
Yeah, and he's very reserved. And then you have, Leslie, who's all over the place and talking to, anything that she thinks will talk back to her. And they've had their moments in their marriage where they've struggled with things, but they always made it through, and they showed me what teamwork was. And so, again, sets the bar pretty high for whoever ends up with
That's
me,
right.
because for Christ's sake, pardon me, I don't mean to use the Lord's name in vain, but like, if you can't work as a team, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Yeah. You got to
Yeah.
just keep talking.
And you know what
It's
else?
all about communication.
You know what else is very
Yeah.
interesting about your marriage? It's a very egalitarian marriage that is
Oh, yeah.
not defined by gender.
It's always been equal. In fact, there have been times when I've earned more than Dad.
Mm-hmm.
I was a medical assistant for 42 years. I have a very strong work ethic. And
She had a photography business,
I
and
had
a stationery
photography.
business, and
I
yeah,
had Thai design imports. I imported Thai silk picture frames
yeah.
Wow.
So very
and-
entrepreneurial.
and took them around
Yes.
stores.
And my dad
sell.
never held her back. It was never, oh, Jesus, Leslie, yeah, one more. It was never that. It was always, well, would you like me to go to the printer for you? Would you like me to
Oh, I
run
love that.
to the store? And so,
Love that support of not saying, oh, you're just a crazy woman and this is just a flight of fancy. He was supportive and said, no, I
Right.
believe in you. You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And like
always
Sam said, you have grit.
together.
Go do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dana, thank you so much for interviewing me.
Oh, this is.
This is
are
been
you
a-
ending the interview?
I am.
Dana, Leslie's agent has called and called time.
I love it. She knows what she's doing. She's a woman that knows where she's going.
Yep.
I think this has been beautiful. I think the relationship you guys have is so precious and very special. And gosh, what a blessing.
We're lucky.
It's been a journey and it's been fun.
And we've
It's-
worked at it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything that's worth its while you got to work at.
Two strong personalities, and it's like, that can be a lot. But we work at our relationship,
Mhm.
and it's great.
Mhm.
And we
I
get in
love it.
a lot of trouble together, and that's fun too.
Yeah. I'm thinking of those, what were they that we were flirtinis?
Oh my God. My mother, I'll tell one quick story and then we'll be done. So when I was in college, I wasn't far from home, and my mother was nice enough to come up and visit me and take me to a local restaurant. And we had some cocktails, and we were sitting the whole time. So we thought nothing of it. And then my mom, as we got the check, she said, well, I'll be right back. I need to use the powder room. So she stands up and then she immediately sits back down. And I said, what's the matter? And she says, I can't walk.
Oh no.
I was like, yes, you can. So then I got up and I was like, oh my God. And so the two of us clung to each other and waddled through the restaurant to the bathroom, where we called my father, and I was on the phone with him, and he picks up, he goes, hello, and I'm just giggling, and he goes, oh no, put your mother on the phone. So I'm like, Mom, Dad wants to talk to you. I don't know how this happened, but she fell off the toilet.
Oh
And
my goodness.
slid under the stall.
Oh.
And I don't like, and please, like, don't be a mistake. Like, my mother and I are not heavy drinkers. Like, we do not, oh my goodness.
We barely drink.
Which is probably why we had 2 flirtinis, and that was really
Yeah.
all we needed. So then we managed to pick ourselves up and pull ourselves back together and waddle across the street to Starbucks to get some coffee, where we waited for 2 hours before, one of us could drive again. But
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
we
All
just- we
I'm
had a lot
thinking,
of fun.
all I keep thinking is, oh my God, somebody needed to hose Leslie down after she fell on that floor.
Well, luckily for us, it was a very nice restaurant, so the floors were squeaky clean, and
Oh, good.
it wasn't so bad. But yeah, we just the two of us together, we tend to, and my mom will go for walks through town, and she'll bring clippers with her, and she will walk into other people's yards and clip their flowers and run away before they can catch her. And then she comes back with a full bouquet. I'm like, well, where'd you go? She goes, just around the block.
Oh my gosh. She's
do
like,
help
to
myself.
the neighborhood flower store.
But no, we have a lot of fun, and we love each other, and I'm just so thrilled that you would do this for Mother's Day. I think it was very fitting. Can you stop wiping your pants, Mom? We're
I'm
almost
trying to
done.
get rid of the cat
Oh
hairs.
my God. So anyway,
I love your love. And I think what you have is precious. And I just love hearing you guys go back and forth. You should have your own show.
Yeah, right. God. What would we call it? Duffel bag. That's another story for another day. Yes, anyways, thank you.
Well, happy Mother's Day, Leslie. Happy Mother's Day.
Dana.
And happy Mother's Day to you, Dana.
Delightful.
Thank you.
I'd love to meet you in person.
Oh, well, I'll be coming out one day. I can't wait.
Dana said if we go to LA, she can get us into Dancing with the Stars because she knows people. For those of you who don't know, Dana is on Modern Family, like just in case there's idiots out there that don't know who Dana Powell is. So Modern Family is, an ABC show. And so Dana knows people who knows people. And so maybe we can get into Dancing with the Stars.
Get on out here, girls. Let's go have some flirtinis.
Yes, we will. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on When I Knew, Human Interest Pieces presented by Whatever You Say Productions. We love doing this show. We recently changed our Instagram handle, so it's @_when_I_knew_. So it's just all one word, short and sweet. Thank you for joining us. My name is Samantha.
And I'm Dana.
And I'm Leslie.
And you've just listened to When I Knew. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Thank you for listening to When I Knew, presented by Whatever You Say Productions. Learn more at wheniknewpodcast.com.